Aisha Rahman never liked the house on Blackthorn Lane, though she couldn't explain why at first. It wasn't just the silence or the way the walls seemed to absorb sound, it was the feeling that something inside the house was already aware of her, long before she unpacked her things. On the fourth night, just after midnight, she heard it clearly. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crossing the ceiling above her bed. But there was no one there. No room above. Only a sealed attic. She lay frozen, listening as each step landed with unnatural precision, until it stopped directly over her. Then came a single, soft tap. Like a signal. Like something acknowledging her presence. By morning, the sound was gone, but something worse remained. Damp footprints beside her bed. Bare feet. Not hers. Leading to her, and ending exactly where she slept. The house didn't stop after that. It escalated. Subtle at first, doors shifting slightly, objects misplaced, but always controlled, always intentional. It wasn't chaos. It was communication. Aisha tried to ignore it, convincing herself there had to be an explanation, until she found the message carved into the page of her notebook. Not written. Pressed into the paper like something had forced the words through with invisible hands. I was here. That night, she needed proof. She spread flour across her floor, a fragile barrier between reality and whatever was watching her. But the house answered. By morning, footprints crossed the white surface and then climbed the wall. Defying gravity. Defying logic. Ending high above her head, where nothing human could stand. That was when fear became certainty. Because something unseen wasn't just moving through her room. It was showing her that it could go anywhere. After that, the house changed, or maybe it revealed itself. Sounds became patterns. Movements became responses. It wasn't random. It was aware. Aisha started noticing how everything happened when she was alone, how the air thickened in certain spaces like it was occupied by something unseen. Curtains lifted without wind. Doors opened without sound. Even the silence felt watched. Then it spoke. Not loudly. Not clearly. But enough. A whisper, shaped like her own voice, calling her name from above the ceiling. That was when fear turned into something deeper. Something colder. Because whatever was there wasn't just present. It was learning her. When she found the photograph altered, when she saw the faint outline of something standing behind the upstairs window that hadn't been there before, she understood. It wasn't hiding anymore. It was getting closer. And it wanted her to notice the attic was never meant to be opened. Everything about it resisted, sealed shut, forgotten, untouched. But something had been moving up there for too long to ignore. When Aisha forced it open, the air that came down felt wrong, like it had been trapped for years with something that didn't belong. Inside, the attic was nearly empty, except for the marks. A path worn clean through thick dust, pacing endlessly back and forth toward a small wooden chair. As if something had been waiting there. Watching. The letters she found told a story no one wanted remembered. A child. A voice in the walls. A presence that learned names. And then the realization that came too late. As Aisha stood there, reading, the dust shifted. Footsteps forming in real time. Walking toward her. Invisible, but undeniable. Stopping inches from her feet. As if whatever had lived there had been waiting for someone new to arrive. Running didn't help. The moment she stepped outside, it followed. Footprints appearing beside hers on the pavement, forming with each step she took, perfectly matched. Not chasing. Not rushing. Just staying with her. That was when the truth settled in. It wasn't bound to the house. It had chosen her. The records confirmed everything the walls had been trying to say. A missing child. Eliza Vale. Never found. But never gone. The family heard her. Felt her. Just like Aisha did now. This wasn't something that wanted to harm. It was something that refused to be alone. And it had learned how to stay. When her mother finally saw the footprints too, when the fear became shared and real, the house didn't hide anymore. It didn't need to. Because now, they both knew. They tried to leave, but the house wasn't finished. The footprints appeared on the front door before they could open it, forming from the outside inward like something standing just beyond reach. Then the attic burst open. The ladder dropping as the footsteps began to descend, each one heavier now, more certain. Something was coming down. Not to hide. Not to wait. But to be seen. The windows sealed shut with fog, trapping them inside, and across the glass her name appeared. Slowly. Deliberately. Aisha. It wasn't random. It wasn't mindless. It was calling to her. That's when she understood. It didn't want the house. It wanted connection. It wanted someone to answer. And when she finally spoke, when she acknowledged it, the air shifted. Because for the first time, it wasn't being ignored. The truth had been hidden inside the house all along. Buried in its walls. Forgotten in its silence. When the plaster broke open, it revealed what had never left, a child, small and still, lost in a place no one thought to look. And in that moment, everything stopped. The footsteps. The cold. The constant presence that had filled every corner of the house. Not violently. Not suddenly. But gently. Like something finally at rest. The last footsteps echoed once more across the ceiling, slower than before, reaching the center of the house, and ending there. For good. What people would call closure was something much quieter. Because some things don't haunt out of anger. Some things haunt because they were never found. And when they finally are, they leave nothing behind. Except the memory of footsteps that once refused to disappear even after they left Blackthorn Lane. The silence never felt the same again. The new flat was smaller, brighter, filled with ordinary sounds, neighbors talking through thin walls, footsteps on stairs that always belonged to someone visible. But for Aisha, silence had changed shape. It no longer meant emptiness. It meant listening. Some nights, just before sleep, she would find herself counting without realizing it, 1, 2, 3, waiting for something that never came. The absence of those footsteps became its own presence, like a missing rhythm her mind refused to forget. She told herself it was over, that whatever had been trapped in that house was finally at rest. But memory doesn't leave as easily as fear. And sometimes, when she stood alone in a quiet room, she felt that same stillness press in around her, not threatening, not watching. But remembering life moved forward the way it always does, even after something impossible has been seen. School resumed. Conversations returned. Days filled themselves with routine until the edges of what happened began to blur. But not completely. There were moments, small, almost forgettable ones, that lingered longer than they should. A faint damp mark on a bathroom tile that didn't match her step. A soft shift in the air behind her when no one was there. Nothing like before. Nothing clear enough to call real. But enough to make her pause. Enough to remind her that not everything leaves cleanly. Aisha didn't tell her mother about these moments. Not because she was afraid, but because she understood something now. Not every trace meant something was still there. Some things leave impressions. And impressions can stay long after the source is gone. Months later, the story of the house faded into something distant, retold by others as a strange event, a solved mystery, a piece of local history finally given an ending. But Aisha knew endings weren't always complete. They were quiet transitions. What had been in that house wasn't just a presence, it was a memory that had been forced to exist without being seen. And when it was finally found, it didn't vanish in anger or relief. It simply stopped trying. That was the part she couldn't forget. Not the fear. Not the footsteps. But the stillness that followed. Because it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. And sometimes, late at night, when she stood alone and looked down at the ground beneath her feet, she would think about how something invisible had once walked beside her, not to harm her, but to be known. And in those moments, she didn't feel fear anymore. Just the quiet understanding that some things don't disappear. They just stop leaving marks.